Abdul Kul Bazum Taflatat Wadana Bet Mahu Hadus Aishu Inakalu Annunaki Fiina Aishu Shukalu Waku Aishu Kaluni Na Atakuna Fikalu Annunaki Feragun Shukalu Wa Kalu Kalu Feragun Shuni Annunaki Wahid Kakalu Wa Kalu Kalu Wahid Mani Lu Aikilu Anjilu Kama Feragun Shukalu Wa Hukama Feidu Lu Aikilu Ahwenu Kudik Luka Fizi Shukalu Kama Tabu Kama Kafazi Kalu Ya Ami Fikalu Annunaki Kabahawa Kalu Kalu Nanuki Kalu Yaku Nukaikilu Kalu Babu Nukami Kalu Nfin. Begin all prayers, deeds, and deeds with who? Divine love and all. I am in the love of all, and all of it. We are all in all. I am a part of all, and all is a part of me. I am one with all, and all is one with me. I could succeed as a part of all and grow as an individual. I can be all I wish and all as long as my wishes to stay in all. I am never alone. All is I am. All can I do. All does I
do. Yeah, Hu family. This is the House of Hu. This is the Holy Tablet class and discussion. You all know how we do, family. Like to welcome everybody into the house. For everybody that's been listening over the last few months, last few weeks, days, hours, because we dropping new videos all the time. Y'all check out the House of Hu YouTube page, definitely. You're going to catch us soon broadcasting live. So keeping everybody tuned into that YouTube channel with the House of Hu. Brother Chris Love, last time we left off with the Holy Tablets, family, we was into it. We got past chapter 1, which is the creation. Now we in chapter 2, which is the slaves, right? A lot of the context from the slaves is going to break down who the slaves were once the Annunaki came back down and reset this thing back up and started breeding these workers that they needed to mine this gold to take back to their homeworld, to save it. Right, so we already know the culture and the story about the Sumerians and how it's been translated, how they broke it down. This is the master teacher's translation. And keep in mind, the master teacher knows various languages, 19 plus. So when he translated this from the Kunea form, right, he was really translating it from one of our ancient tongues and one of our ancient languages. This is the Nawapic, right? This is coming from the same source, the same language from back in the day. When the Anunnaki came down, they were speaking the language. So we in chapter 2 right now, family. So we're on page 152, right? So just want to say a big Hu to everyone. It's good to be back. And I'm going to go ahead and kick it off, man. If anyone has any comments. I know earlier the brother had mentioned those balls that start washing up on the beaches. There was these solid balls that washed up on the beach of Japan. You guys can Google that. And in some of the scrolls that the master teacher put out, quote unquote, these great balls of fire, these balls were buried throughout the planet, and it was also instructed that when that time came, these balls would be taken up, lit up and then let back down on the planet in the event that these beings had to defend themselves with the people on the planet. So that's something to look out for, but need I digress anymore? We're going to go to the Holy Tablets. I think we are at page 1. It's like 152. I'll go ahead and start it off, family, and start reading. And we're just going to break it down piece by piece. And anytime if anyone has any questions, any comments, concerns, anything you want to add, come on in with that hua, the force of creative will, and, speak your mind, speak your knowledge. Let's build on this. It's a discussion, but it's also class. All right, so we're going to wait for the brother to get it pulled back up here. All right, so page 152, this is chapter 2, El Yarutat, the slaves. This is tablet 122, right? So vortex will reopen and we must depart with or without you, so be prepared. All right, so pause right there. That's coming in from the last page. The master teacher's breaking down, if I'm not mistaken, we had talked about some of these great balls of fire prior to, and he's letting you know when this vortex opens up. Right, he's talking about the vortex that was created back in 1943 with the Philadelphia experiment. I think it was the USS Eldridge. It was a naval ship, and the Navy at that time tried to develop cloaking technology. But I do recall these great balls of fire, right? And it might have been also in the Man from Planet Risk scroll as well. But he was talking about these great balls of fire. I think we're looking for it right now, family. Let's see here. All right, so here we are. All right, so basically saying that vortex will reopen every 10 years from 1943, 53, 63, so forth and so forth. It's no coincidence that this year, 2023, the Vortex is scheduled to open this year.
Welcome back to Space Weather News, your daily source for all things space weather related. If you enjoy our videos, please consider showing your support by subscribing to the channel. A recent discovery by scientists has shed new light on the mysteries of our sun's polar regions. A circular filament has been spotted wobbling around the sun's north pole, creating a massive polar vortex, in a phenomenon never before seen.
So here we are, family. 23, my child, listen and understand these crafts are coming to pick you up. They're children. However, the evil Luciferians in human form, aided by the cursed seed of Canaan and their brothers, the Halabian Flugerons or Halub, are on the rise in many names and organizations throughout the world today and are trying their best.
Yeah, you know, like what you just said right now, it's funny how, you know, you said the Vortex is opening this, you know, it's going to be open again this year. It's open this year. And all of a sudden we having all of these so-called, these unidentified objects flying around.
It has happened again for the third day in a row and the fourth time in just 9 days. The United States has shot down an unidentified high-flying object. Today, it happened over Lake Huron between Michigan and Canada. A senior administration official telling NBC News the unmanned object was detected over Montana, Wisconsin, and Michigan. And at the direction of President Biden, it was shot down. It was just yesterday afternoon that a U.S. fighter jet took down another flying object over northern Canada, and the search is still on for what remains of whatever was shot down over Alaska on Friday. This string of events raising so many questions.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announcing a U.S. fighter jet took out an unidentified object over the Yukon, scrambling both Canadian and U.S. aircraft after coordinating with President Biden Saturday afternoon.
Everywhere at this particular time. It's interesting how this is happening. There's no coincidence.
No coincidence, because that vortex done open up and the beings is coming through now. And they coming through like never before. And I think they just popping up all over the place. And, you know, the establishment trying to respond. But there's another point to that too, family. That's a good point, because, you know, one of my coworkers brought up, he's like, you know, Chris, you think they travel all across these galaxies and come down here just to get shot down by some F-14s? I don't think so. I don't think they shoot down UFOs. So he brought up an interesting point, right? Because the tech is out, you know, it's out surpassed, you know, what, you know, the surface people have on the planet. So it's something to think about. Like, what are they really shooting down?
Who? And you also got to keep in mind, like, even in the strolls we seeing that they have, they've made their own little crafts. So we don't know if it's their own little crafts that they are able to shoot down, because we already see, like, they not shooting down anything from out of this realm. It's just they weapons are not, they just not technology. Their technology is not advanced enough to even deal with it. Like these beings, you ain't even gonna get a chance to shoot a weapon at them.
No, right. Let's not even look at it from that aspect. When we said they don't have the technology, we're fooling ourselves. You know how many satellites is out there? You know how many of these streets got cameras? You know how many things is pointing up towards the stars? How many of our surveillance is going towards the stars and all of that, and ones that's in the skies like the drones and these satellites that are actually taking pictures of all aspects of the United States and all around the world, and they have not seen that coming. They didn't see things sneaking up on us. It's just something that makes you scratch your head, like they're hiding something. It's bigger. The picture is bigger. They just don't want to cause them panic.
Then to listen to both perspectives too, because I feel both of those perspectives, because I'm thinking from both ends of it. Yeah, it could be the surface dwellers, you know, sending up their craft, shooting them down, trying to prove to the minds of the masses, hey, we can shoot these people down, right? Then on the flip side of it, it could be the intergalactic family. They sending holograms and probes because they know how they're gonna be encountered. So it could be working from both sides.
Right.
Yep, and we talked about this in the tablet class before about, you know, when they first started showing these shams, these ships, not shams, but these crafts, a lot of them crafts gonna be holograms. And I think that's why when they shoot them down, there's no debris that they can find or locate. That's another point about that too, man, because you're right, they got the tech, man. I didn't think about that because you corrected me on that thought, because they got reverse engineered ET stuff from the Greys, from the Dracos, Ashdar Command. They got reverse tech that they could be using to shoot some of these crafts down. That's a third option. So we don't even know what's going on, but we know something is going on. Man.
Yeah, if we really want to know, if y'all really want to know, I know we all know, but I'm just saying, if you really want to know, then it's always, you can go into the scrolls. Like you said, Great Balls of Fire, Year 2000, What to Expect, Man from Planet Risk, Mission Earth, Shyamalan Avatar, Holy Tablets, of course, you know, etc. It's one person that's been telling people this for years and has been looked at as like he was crazy for so many years, and that is the master teacher. Not a single nation out there was trying to back him up. Not a single nation was out there. I'm talking about Nubian or Black Nation was really trying to back him up. Other than I would say the Moors at one point. You know what I mean? However, but now that he's out, all of them are beginning to talk about Anunnaki. You're starting to have Anunnaki in their dialogue. Remember? So you got the Anunnakis and the ancestors. Everybody's speaking just like the master teacher, Malachi, Zeyork, Nubi, Akhtar, whatever name you want to go by at this particular time. Everybody is talking like how he's been trying to tell us for over what, 40 now, 50 some odd years.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, you got the scroll extraterrestrial and creation. Are the clouds UFOs?
Mystery clouds.
UFOs.
Yes, you've seen all of that on TikTok all of a sudden.
That's a jewel.
That's a jewel, man. I wouldn't mind going to some of them scrolls in the future and just reading from them, because a lot of the stuff that's in them scrolls, man, they showing so many mystery clouds decloaking. Right now, it's on TikTok, it's on Instagram. They've been showing up for months and months and months. I'm like, yo, it's the same thing. I mean, damn near from the pages of the scrolls. So I'm like, okay, I see what the old man did. He put us 20 to 40 years ahead of the game so we wouldn't panic once this stuff started happening. Because like we said earlier, family, all the ships that they showing up ain't gonna be our ships. So we gotta be careful, man, because I think some of these things they shooting down, possibly holograms, possibly drones, right? But possibly could be some of our stuff that they deflected. So we don't know. Not right now, anyway. He had a
like the master teacher said, the truth don't need no confirmation though, right? So you gotta keep that in mind. Like he was already telling you, like, man, I don't need nobody to cheer me on or none of that, because it is what it is. You'll see. A lot of the people that they pulled all these little shams and scams and all that, he even told everybody, like, money not gonna save you. So what are these fools doing with all this, you know, reselling his books and recopying and all that, trying to get money? Money's not going to save you. Like the master teacher already explained all of this to us in AEO. The ones that were really paying attention, their heart was really on what was the mission. Yeah. That's why he stood there in front of everybody. When I was there my first time there, but he said, y'all don't think I know y'all lying to me. And I was like, wow, bro, like, and nobody got it. It was just a little, but I wasn't in the organization long enough to know exactly, you know, what he was saying for a lot of it. But now all of it makes sense. Like, whoa, yeah. So
at the end of the day, people need to be out there talking, be out there backing what he was saying, literally out there saying, you know, that's everybody that's talking like they're this elder, this, that. Nah, that's the master teacher. You sound like the master teacher. All of them that's popping up on Killer Priest show, all of them. Everybody that's out there on TikTok making money off of that and getting good, having people believing that they really down with Pops, they really need to come out and speak on Pops' behalf. Truth is just truth. And if you true about it, brother, it's time for y'all to speak up, stand up and stop being cowards. Don't let nobody slide. And the true Nubian will never go against any other Black nation. We already went through that when we questioned with the 50 questions. So we don't go, if you're a true Nubian, you really follow the master teacher, you won't be out there trying to bash another Nubian nation, especially when we're in a bunch of crises. All nations being watched and being attacked. Either way, to get back, but to get back on course, back to what we're talking about with Brother Chris Love in the Holy Tablet on this verse. Yes, the vortex is open. There's a lot of creepy things going on. And what the hell are they scared of that they got a Space Force going on?
Yeah, they know the people's about to show up, family. That's what it is. That's why the Space Force became public. You know, then they finna bring the secret Space Force into the Space Force and then start revealing all the technology they can hold back to the last 75 years. You know, they really got cures for everything with this technology that they've been uncovering from Antarctica and all the reverse UFOs that have been crashing down due to the vortexes opening up. But yeah, let's get back to it, family. Cool. Let's get back to it. 152. Holy Tablets. I think we're at 24. I'm just going to go ahead and read that verse over again, family, and shoot, y'all come on in and who on anytime. 24. However, the evil Luciferians in human form, aided by the cursed seed of Canaan, and their brothers, the Halabians, Flugerons, or Halub, like pause, keep in mind, the Canaanites is the albinos from the Cushites, right? The Flugerons is the albinos from the Hindus, right? Right, they are on the rise in many names and organizations throughout the world today and are trying their best through the media and mind control to make you, the children of the Annunaki, Elohim, regress back to your state of Homo erectus with the aid of black devils. All right, so that's pause right there. That's self-explanatory, right? We just got through kind of summarizing that up with how the media is going to portray certain things, and they kind of drive the narrative for a lot of Nubian emotions in America. They distract us with, trivial stuff. They distract us with Black Lives Matter. They distract us with Kanye West. They distract us. They keep it trivial with black people. They tap into our emotions and sway them through the media. That's what he's referring to right here. 25. If you regress back to that state, then my children, the elders, have no reason to come for you. For it is Homo sapien that is in our image and after our likeness. All right, so Paul right there, he's letting you know, man, we go back to being the gutter, ignorant niggas that we used to be, then they're not going to see us when they show up. They're not going to even mess with us. There's no need for them to bring us on the ship and we touching stuff and breaking stuff like some ghetto people. You feel me? I'm just being honest with you, man. Just got to have some discipline. 26. Let me explain to you how it all began. It all started when we, the Annunaki, needed to protect the dwindling atmosphere of our home planet Risk. We are the 8th planet of a tri-solar system in the 19th galaxy, Ilion. The rays from these 3 suns, Hu, Apsu, and Shemesh, were depleting our ozone layer. So pause right here, family. In the first tablet, in the tablet of creation, as you guys have been following the Holy Tablet class and discussions in the House of Hu, we talked about the war that took place in Ilion and how the atmosphere of the home world Risk was destroyed. So part of this is relating to that, right? To the 3 suns. 28. The energy level of the radiation was increasing and made the hole in the ozone layer bigger every time all 3 suns shone on the planet at the same time, right? Pause. Down on planet Earth right now. Brother Ibrahiim just got through breaking it down with some of these solar flares and the sun activity that's hitting the Earth, right? Well, the ozone layer has already been depleted on this planet by those 2 groups that we mentioned earlier, the Canaanites and the Flugerons. They've been destroying the atmosphere on the planet. So now more of that radiation is coming in, eating up that ozone layer. And as kids, when we was in high school or junior high, you always talked about recycling the ozone layer, the environment. That's what this is about. They've been destroying the ozone layer of this planet just like they did back on Risk. All right? So let's keep reading. All right? The rays from these 3 suns, Hu, Apsu, and Shemesh, were depleting our ozone layer. The energy level of the radiation was increasing and made the hole in the ozone layer bigger every time all 3 suns shone on the planet at the same time. It is the same as on Earth, where the ozone layer is depleting, allowing more damaging ultraviolet rays to penetrate the atmosphere, right? This is what's giving a lot of people who lack a lot of melanin in their skin. It's giving them melanoma. It's giving them skin cancers, right? 29. However, unlike the planet Risk, with our 3 suns, the planet Earth has but 1. So the depletion level is not occurring as fast, but it will happen eventually. Look for the sign of the little boy El Nino, right? And we know that was a massive hurricane or storm that came through. I think it was El Nino in the 90s. I can't recall what year, but I think El Nino was in the 90s. 30. The planet Risk has 3 suns, Hu, Apsu, and Shemesh. that all have damaging ultraviolet rays and has a much faster rotation than of this planet. So the depletion of the ozone layer occurred at a faster rate. He kind of recapped the previous statement. 3 suns is going to be 3 times faster. 31, we needed to build a protection, a dome of gold dust particles suspended in the atmosphere to protect the planet from damaging ultraviolet rays. So this was the technology that they were dealing with back on Risk. They figured out a way how to save the planet by repairing the atmosphere and putting gold dust particles in the atmosphere that will reflect the ultraviolet rays from those 3 suns, right? 32, the goal was needed, 31, we needed to build a protection, a dome of gold dust particles suspended in the atmosphere to protect the planet from the damaging ultraviolet rays. 32, the goal was needed because it shields the sun's rays. It is used to reflect the sun's heat. Gold is very special. It is a high polished metal with a high polished finish. It can be made thinner than any metal, right? It can be stretched thinner than paper and stretched for miles. This is why they use it. So these Annunaki, they have the technology that's gold, stretch it out for miles. They can build structures with it. 34, gold can be vaporized better than any other metal and it doesn't tarnish. Gold can also hold under any condition. We had to abort our planet until it could be mended. Then we moved on to Ch2, today known as Orion Galaxy, which was originally a 6-star, 6-sun constellation. Others went and stayed or started living in Aish, which is Arcturus, right? I think it's in Job 9:9 too, family, where it speaks about Pleiades, Arcturus, Orion, Messereth, these different star constellations. I think it's Job 9, right? 36, right? Arcturus, which is the brightest star in the Vortices constellation, and then Kuma, or Pleiades, a star cluster in the Taurus constellation, which has many life forms, but we made our home the 3-star belt of Kesel, or Kesel, in Nuwapic, which is Orion. 37, we had to get closer to the Milky Way and this sun, which is exactly 1 billion years left to burn itself out. If the ozone layer doesn't deplete or the 7 plagues don't destroy it, right? So he's giving us some pretext and some context to what did happen, what's happening, and what's about to happen. This is 152. This is chapter 2 of the Holy Tablets, the slaves. All right, let's scroll down a little bit further, family. Yeah, any comments right now on that? Because it's basically breaking down what we covered in chapter 1, how, once we got attacked on Risk, man, we became refugees. We had to go to Orion, we had to go to Pleiades, and we went to these different systems and started living there. All right, so 153, this is chapter 2, El Jarutat. This is tablet 38, tablet 1, verse 38. So we moved to Lamu, which means deity of war, what is now called Mars. Then we moved on to Gaga, Pluto, and various other planets and set up civilizations on the moon. And as in the Canis Major star constellation. 39. This is why the face on Mars is believed to be that of Homo erectus, right? We talked about this too, family, that Homo erectus face that's on Mars, right? Believed to be that of Homo erectus when it is in fact the face of Homo erectus being cloned into Homo sapiens, the face of Zakar, whose name is Cadmium, called the Adama Project. We talked about the Adama Project too, family. That was that scientific project that was used to breed, the humans of the planet, all right? 40, it looks like the Sphinx face. The face is thought to be that of Pharaoh Khufu, when in fact it is the Egyptian deity Osiris, right? Standing at the base of the face, you would see to your left in the distance massive pyramids. He's still talking about Mars, family, right? Next to this face on Mars, it kind of resembles this Sphinx, right? You're going to see a bunch of pyramids. You bring up that photo, you'll see a 5-sided pyramid and some other smaller pyramids around it, right? So in the distance, massive pyramids, similar to their Egyptian counterparts, part of the city complex, right? Notice he says, quote unquote, city. So there's an Egyptian city on Mars. They call it, I think it's in the region they call Sidonia, right? With the face and the pyramids and these temples. 43, among these are some half a dozen smaller objects. Some have pyramidal forms, but others have apparent domes, cones, walls, and buried rectangular markings to the southwest of the main complex. So he's breaking down a whole city on Mars that was destroyed, you know, because, you know, once we did the Atom Project, we were done. We dipped out. We started coming to Earth and mining this gold to take it back to Ilion and start repairing the ozone, right? So, 45, Annunaki Elohim came to the planet Earth to set up the first laboratory called Ch2 that you call an Egyptian civilization on key Earth called Ptah. So pause right there, family. That's heavy within itself. I mean, it's simple, right? But that Egyptian civilization that we call Egypt, that was really the Annunnaki's first laboratory, Ch2. This occurred 450,000 years before coming to Tiamat Earth. They were followed by 1001, right? So he's speaking of different time periods, right? And some of the scrolls of the Master Teacher, when it speaks about these Anunnaki coming to the Earth after the war and their planet had got destroyed, or their ozone layer needed to be repaired, they came about 450,000 years ago for the first time, right? Then they would make another trip back about 49,000 years ago to do a massive upgrade, and that's how we got Zakar. But this whole breeding process of these human beings, these quote unquote primitive workers, Lulu Amalu, it started 450,000 years ago. So when they came here, you know, we read this in Tablet 1, the creation. You know, it was primates here. It was early hominoid evolving primates, and they used those primates and they used other DNA and their DNA, and they made us. That's what that's breaking down. All right. So the name Utu, this is 47, family. The name Utu, the sun as Re, the sun, and the head deity they call Osiris, right? Who is Usir, after the Sirius star constellation, also called Sothis. So I always notice that too, family. I'm pausing right here. This is the end of page 153 on the left side, verse 47, speaking about Osiris and how that Cyrus is really the Sirius or Sirius star constellation, right? That's how they coded that, right? So Osiris, who was Usir after the Sirius star constellation, also called Sothis in Greek and Sept in the Egyptian. We Anunnaki originally came here to this planet to mine for gold, right? We talked about that too, family. They needed this gold as a resource, right? And then this is how humans eventually started to place this value on the gold because the gods needed it. So we thought if the gods needed it, man, this must be valuable. This is how gold began to get its value throughout the world with human beings, right? We, the Anunnaki, originally came here to this planet to mine for gold that we would take back to our planet Resi. First, we sent the Romardians, who like they built androids, right? Which were machines that almost human, called robotoids, robotic machines. These then biological gravitation was added, needed for thinking beings to complete the mission. So the Anunnaki was sent to scout and survey this very planet. 50, when Anu first came to Ptah, called Earth, right? So pause right here. It's another mystery the Master teach. He be dropping Jews all the time. It's another name for Earth, that Ptah. Notice they call it Terra, right? Or the Terrans, called Earth or Terra 500,000 years ago. The dragon people, or Draconian, and the snake people were already here, living in the vast tunnels under the Earth's Terra's crust, or some lived in the deep seas to protect themselves from the frequent radiation storms and magnetic shifts. So pause right here. There was a young man on a previous, I think it was a Holy Tablet class, and we talked about, he was asking were these reptilians already here. This goes into a little bit more context with his family. Yeah, they were here. He's talking about the species, the dragon people, the draconians, the snake people. They were already down here when Anu and the Anunnaki came back, you know what I'm saying, 500,000 years ago. All right, so let's read on. 51, the atmosphere was being disturbed by frequent radiation storms, which was caused by electrical storms from the sun due to the crash of Nibiru. The planet was still in the process of healing. So these beings were still living down. They was living down here. By the time the Anunnaki came back, this was years after the accident of that Nibiru that came through. So they came back and these beings was living here and the planet was still healing. So the planet was, on the surface, it was unstable. Too much radiation, too many shifts. So a lot of these beings lived under the earth and the water. That's what he was talking about. And that's kind of funny because in that Genesis scripture, it speaks about the spirit of the Lord moving on across the surface of the waters. Talking about when the Anunnaki first came down, they came down in these crystal cities, these crystal city ships, released from the mothership, and they were just hovering down here. And they had to do this treaty with these beings that was already here. So Anu had to come down here and do some treaties with these beings. So he's like, can we start mining this gold? It had to be some type of treaty that Anu was coming down to establish, you know what I'm saying, for this gold mining, right? So it's getting into that a little bit here in the Holy Tablets. Let's see here, 52. The snake people having a variety of body types, ranging from human-like, some are half snake or reptilian. They can see in the darkness and have telepathic abilities. These beings were unwilling to share the planet with the Annunaki. So these reptilians, they were telling Anu, nah, we straight, man. We don't want nobody mining down here. We good, right? So 53, Anu wanted the gold to take back to his home planet and risk. However, the dragon people feared that Anu would not respect their peaceful way. So Paul is saying right here that these dragon people was peaceful, right here in the tablets. So they had their own situation set up, and they had peace. And in their mind, it appears from what the tablets is breaking down, they didn't want people coming to their world doing all this mining, just causing all this new type of confusion, right? So 54, they had spent years setting lines of magnetic energy and grids around the earth, and they had constructed endless tunnels beneath the earth in cooperation with the snake people, right? So he's letting them know, hey, man, we done already started working on the earth so we can start mining. So Anu already take that initiative. He was going to them to really kind of have that treaty so it can be peaceful. All right, let's scroll down. It's giving you that face on Mars that we talked about and how it's really the face of Zakar. Zakar was 49,000 years ago. In principle, in our doctrine, that's the atom that you read about. And it's breaking down Sidonia. It's breaking down the pyramids on Mars, how they magnetically and geometrically line up. There's another figure right there of the Sphinx.
Yeah, that's a diagram above in the black of the golden ratio. They call it golden ratio.
Yep, the Fibonacci sequence. That's where they're getting that science from.
Right.
Mm-hmm. All right, Chan, looks like we made it down to 159. All right, we're still in the Holy Tablets. This is the House of Hu, the Holy Tablets class of discussion. Chapter 2, the slaves, El Jabutat. This is tablet 1, verse 55. I'm going to keep it going, family, and then we'll go through some more diagrams that I might call in a volunteer here later. All right, so 55. The energy vortexes which power their civilizations are in these tunnels, along with enormous stores of precious stones and metals. There were a few battles happening on Earth and in the skies, right? So when they got here, it was already people, beefing over these resources and these minerals. It's 56. Finally, arrangements were made, territories were drawn to keep the peace on the planet Earth between the Draconians and the Riskians. You had to marry a daughter of one of them. So it's letting you know when Anu came down here, they were like, man, you want this treaty, you want this gold? You know how they bring out in the old movies, bring out the king's daughter. They bring out the king's daughter, and this sister be looking atrocious. It's like, oh, I gotta marry her to get the treaty. So this is kind of like a comedy setup for Anu, because they bring out the daughter for Anu to marry, to get this treaty thing done. So Anu agreed to mate with the draconian princess named Id, right? ID or IYD, the daughter of Sidihis, right? Sidihis, that's his name. The president of the Draconians, right? So that was her dad. He was the president. So she was the president's daughter, right? To seal the alliance. And he gave Id to his wife, sister Antun, to be her highest servant, right? So Anu already had a wife, but to get this treaty, he had to take another wife down here on the planet Earth. So once he took her as a wife, he was like, okay, you got to fall up on the wife number one. You did. So that's what was happening with that. So because of this, though, because when he came to Tiamat, right, and he married this reptilian woman, right, this Id, they gave birth to Nidimud, or Id, and he was to be ruler of the earth, right, because he was a product of the treaty between the Tamatians, these beings from Tiamat, these reptilians, and then the Riskians with Anu. So it was the union of two societies and two royal families. So Inky is royalty on both sides, right? He's supposed to be the ruler, or would be the ruler of the planet Earth. Nadimu was educated on the Nibiru. He became a master scientist and a builder. 59. Anu then sent a group of Annunaki to start mining for gold on Tiamat. The leader amongst the Annunaki was E, meaning he whose house is water, son of the Anunnaki Anu and the draconian Id. After crashing down in what is called the Persian Gulf today, he established a city and called its name Eridu, meaning home away from home. And he built the house in a very far away, and he became known as Inky, right? So Inky and Nidimu, same person. Keep in mind, family, we'll read on and it may break it down, but there's also another scroll of the master teacher that when he was called Nidimu, this is where they get the word nude from. Like when you take off your clothes, but it's also in Ud, it's where they get one of the cities that he inspired that we call in the Bible Nod. The city of Nod was named after Nidimu, who was Inky. All right, so let's read on. He received the name Inky when he landed. This is 62, family. He received the name Inky when he landed on the planet Ki, Earth, meaning ruler of Ki, Earth. And he only landed on the planet because he was being taught in the Bureau, because his mama was from Earth. So Earth was really like his second home, right? Or really his home. You know, the Bureau would have been his other home, right? 63. However, his birth name was Nidimu, meaning he who fashions things, or E, a reminder that his seed was of the water. Right, 64. Inky built waterworks in the marshlands at the head of the Persian Gulf. He surveyed the marshlands, cut canals for drainage and water control, built dikes, dug ditches, and built structures of bricks molded from local clays. Right, so they were bringing agriculture and architecture to these, to this planet on the surface. Right, he surveyed the marshlands, cut canals for drainage and water control, built dikes and dug ditches. So he was doing the work with some machinery, is what that verse is breaking down. 66. The first divine city built was called Iduku, meaning house of the body mound. He joined the Igilgat, which is the Tigris, and the Firatu, which is the Euphrates rivers by canals. And at the edge of the marshlands, he built his water house. He built the cube-shaped temple called the Ubaid Shrine, and there the secrets were stored. Inky was assigned to Earth, and he agreed to the assignment. So when you look at this, I'm pausing right now at verse 69. When you look at this, Inky was given charge over, mining this gold. And when you look at Anu as a strategist, when he came to Earth, and this is 500,000 years ago, these reptilians, these draconians, these sea people was already here. He negotiated, he married the daughter, had a son with the daughter, and then put the son in charge of mining the gold, because half of Inky was from Earth anyway. He was conducive to the atmosphere. So that was a chess move by Anu for doing that, putting his own son in charge of mining the gold, who was halfway from Earth, right? So right now, let's see here, 70. We're at 70 at page 159, chapter 2. This is the slaves. Any questions, any comments, family? All right, that's what's up. I'm gonna keep it moving. 70. He was chosen for this job because he was a brilliant scientist and engineer. Inky built himself a beautiful kingdom in the sea called the Abzu. And keep in mind, if Inky was building his kingdom in the sea, Inky must got some skill set to breathe underwater like his mom, right? 71. The structures of Abzu were built of silver and lapis lazuli, right? Part high on the mountain and part submerged underwater. When Inky wasn't working in the Abzu, he built dams and rerouted waters. Inky loved water and frequently paddled around the marshes all by himself, studying fish, insects, and the grasses along the riverbanks. However, all did not go well with Inky. Inky got caught up in the delicacies of the world, and he stopped transporting the gold. So pause right there. Right? This story within itself is like Inky being sent down to Earth to do a certain mission, and then Inky gets so comfortable. Right, he's falling for the delicacies of the world. They love Inky. He's royalty. So he got a bunch of women. Right, he got a bunch of wealth. He's royalty on both sides. He done kind of start falling in love with the delicacies of the world. Same way that we do, family. We get swept away in the madness of it all. It could be anything. It could be people. It could be persons. It could be places. Right, we get swept away. So Inky got caught up in that whole situation. Right. So let's see here. 75. He started to take the gold, shipping it to South America. Then all right, we'll scroll down a little bit further. One of those diagrams, Tigris and Euphrates River. That would be its father, Sidihis, right? And this is a dragon dinosaur man. So those people were already on the planet, right? Next diagram, this is the serpent or snake man, and those beings were already on the planet. And real talk, family, if you look at some of them noses and them eye structures, we know people that are Kushites that have some of these features. That's because of the mixing. Let's be real with it. That would be Id. Id was more humanoid reptilian, as you can see. Right, that would be Inky, and he was more humanoid reptilian, and he was part Annunaki or Riskian. So now we have chapter 2 here. This is the slaves, page 166. A Mexican, that's Mexico. So Inky was sitting to go to South America and a Mexican or Mexico, right? Instead of taking it straight on home, right? Inky started to keep the store and store the gold for himself. Then he began to wear the gold. So Inky was the first guy that really started treating gold like jewelry. And when the humans saw that, they started doing the same thing, emulating. They started emulating the Anunnaki. Inky was a powerful being. He had a high stature, so he started doing it. It was like a trend. Same thing we do in our community when we see somebody on TV rocking something. We'll start rocking it, and we'll make it a trend. So Inky, he trended out the gold. He made the bling. It's right here, right? 77. It should be known that up until that point, the Anunnaki did not wear gold. He was the first one, y'all, to rock the jewels. You know what I'm saying? Right there, 78. And he got caught up with these people who were half Nubian, African, and half Humu, Chinese, called today Native Americans, of the Zulu Aztec, the Toltecs, the Hopi, or in Navajo tribes. They referred to him as Quetzalcoatl, the winged serpent. So every time you hear that Quetzalcoatl, they thinking that that's really Inky, right? 79. Inky promised these people he would come back in a Segu, meaning 60 years for the gold. So Inky said, yo, keep this gold right here. I'm gonna be back in one of your cycles. One of their cycles to them was 60 years. So they was expecting Inky to come back and get this gold. And we all seen the Indiana Jones movies. We all seen these search for treasures and gold movies, right? They know that these temples in Mexico, they need some pathway to gold. I think Ponce de Leon came over here looking for gold, and the Fountain of Youth. So they know there's some gold over here in America. Real talk, since Inky came over here and put it here, right? So 80. Right. However, he didn't, because he was sentenced to the Bureau, and he was not allowed to return to the planet Key anymore. Right. So pause. So once they figured out that Inky wasn't doing what he was supposed to be doing, and sending the gold back to, Risk, man, they had to come grab Inky up and stop him from doing what he was doing. He was hiding the gold for himself. He wasn't doing the mission. He was kind of violating, the commandment. Right. So yeah, they had to get Inky back on the Bureau, apparently. Any questions right now, family? Any concerns? Any comments? All right, cool. So 81. This is why 6 cycles later, a man by the name of Abukari II, a Mandingo Malayan, came over to the shores of South America and was then called a Mexican. So this is the story about Abukari II. That's in direct relation to Kankan Musa. He was like the wealthiest man in the history of the planet because of these gold resources, right? So 82, he was believed to have been Quetzalcoatl or Inky. When Abukari came here, he was clothed from head to foot in a long flowing white robes and a turban. So they thought that Abukari was Inky when he showed up all this time later, because these Aztecs and Zulu Aztecs, they kept prophecy about the return of Inky. So they're thinking that Abukari was Inky because of the way he looked, his skin complexion, what he had on. He looked like a true child of the sun, burned dark by its rays. That's what the end of verse 82 says. 83, his black hair and his beard stood out against the blue canopy, which he stood out under the Aztec tribe. You can see the outlines of a great golden bird, the serpent-slaying people, right? Which they thought was a sign of Quetzalcoatl. Notice they said the serpent-slaying eagle, the serpent-slaying eagle, right? Which they thought was a sign of Quetzalcoatl, coming back as he had promised. He was said to have come back by way of the sea where the sun rises. It was exactly 6 cycles since he disappeared. So just coincidentally, which means two incidences, he came back during that time that they were expecting Inky to come back. So they was reluctant to give his brother the gold that Inky had put there all that time ago. So this is how the Malayan Empire came into some extra wealth. These Aztecs was ready to get his gold up to Abu Bakr because they thought it was Inky, right? 84. Thus, when Abu Bakr II appeared to the natives in 1311, he had a white beard. He wore a long white robe, and he came from the east, the land of the sun, in boats, in the same manner as Pensacola had promised. Abu Bakr II wanted to do something different, something new, and something from which there was no precedence that would keep his spirit quick and young with a lifelong excitement. He made a deal with his half-brother Mansa Musa, a Malayan ruler, and he split the gold and the riches in half, making them both extremely rich, right? So right there is letting you know they got the gold in these Aztecs. That's how these boys got them coins, right? 87. They had a vast empire that stretched from Tunis, Libya, Morocco, and all the way over. Abu Bakr II took half of his riches and history of his empire and sailed to the shores of America. So this is the original Coming to America story. He took half the bread, took half the people, all his wealth, all the culture, and brought it over here, right? The master teacher broke this down, and let's set the record straight. That class that we had put out on the House of Hu webpage on YouTube, he was breaking down that they came over here, right? Some of them were already over here, but then some came over here. This is that great migration over here. This is how we became known as the Moors, because before that, we were just Cushites, but they brought that culture over here during that time, right? 86, right? It says he made a deal with his half-brother, right? Mansa Mansa. We know about Mansa Mansa throughout history, but they don't really talk about Abu Bakr II that much. So 87, it tells you, hey, Tunis, Libya, Morocco, all the way over. This is where these boys ruled. 88, he took half the riches and the history of his empire, came to America. 89, he appointed his half-brother Mansa Musa as king before he left in 1311 AD. Abu Bakr II kept in touch with the captains of the fleet by means of the talking drum. So let me just paint that picture for you, family. They can be ships parked throughout the Atlantic and drums on each ship, and these brothers would play these drums. They would travel for miles to the next ship. They would repeat the message. They would repeat the message. They would repeat the message till it went all the way back to the shores of Africa. This is the first cell phone. This is what he's talking about, that talking drum. We used to have that talking drum all the time at every Zed festival on Kodesh, on the land. Doc used to play it himself. I seen it myself. Just saying. All right, so 90. Abu Bakr II arrived precisely 6 cycles after the disappearance of Pensacola. And let me see here. Sorry about that, family. And by way of the sea from among the Toltecs in 999 AD, thus was mistaken by the Aztecs as Pensacola, right? 91, his white robes fitted in which the image of symbolic white bearded figure, while his black skin was the right ceremonial color of the rain god and wind god aspects of Pensacola. 92, a cycle is equal to 52 years in the Aztec culture, which is their Sigui, a 60-year cycle, right? So the Aztecs were originally called, and now the master teacher's going deep. He's defining who these Aztecs were. And as you see that diagram of Abu Bakr, that's the brother of Mansa Musa, actually Abu Bakr II, that's him right there. The Zu Aztecs, the name Zu comes from the Assyrian deity of thunder and storms, equivalent to the Aztec deity Quetzalcoatl, deity of thunder and rain. So that sound like, to me, that sound like Thor in the Marvel world, thunder and rain, right? So that's where they selling their concepts from us. 94. The medieval Mexican and Mandingo Malayans have a lot in common. For example, right? So now Doc is showing you how the Malayan Moors came over here, mixed in with these Aztecs, this Mexican culture, and became, a melted in people, right? He said a plum serpent motif of ancient Mexico and feathered serpent coat in medieval Mali. So these deities are very similar. In medieval Mali, the equivalent of Quetzalcoatl is the Dasiri, of the Bambara, the tribe of the Mandingo, from which Abu Bakari came. So he's letting you know there's a linkage with the Mandingo, even within that culture that was brought over here. 96, the Dasari is the protector of the village, the beneficent spirit whose sacred animal is a snake, right? It's all tying together, family. 97, the feast of the Dasari takes place at the beginning of the year, like that of Ch2. 98, the Dasari hold a dancing ceremony called the Kura or Kora, in which the dancers wrap themselves in thorns and lacerate their breasts and their armpits. Pause right there. That's a little extreme for me, family, but this is the culture. 99. Some beat themselves with the long, flexible scourges. In the Ch2 ceremony, the same self-chastisement and the use of thorn pricking occurs. 100. In both the Mexican Ch2 and the Mandingo Dasari worship, these thorn prickings and whippings were designed to bring blood out in drops. This blood dropping symbolized the falling of raindrops. Now, 4 cycles later, a man by the name of Hernando Cortez, also known as Hernan Cortez, and his band of bearded conquistadors landed from Cuba, not far from the same spot Montezuma II, the Aztec ruler, received his first-hand reports of the visitors, which, according closely with Toltec tradition of Ch2's return, Cortez came out at the end of their 60-year cycle in March of 1519, when he sailed among the coast of the Yucatan and the land of Mexico. So basically, when the Aztecs, was tracking these cycles and people were showing up, giving them like the remembrance of Inky, they would be like, "Hey, we got some gold for you," because these are the descendants of the people that really met Inky back in the day. So they were just going by the prophecies, like, "Yo, y'all fit the prophecy, y'all need this gold." So he's letting y'all know the same thing happened with Abu Bakari, and it looks like here he's breaking down this cat that's coming to Mexico right now. Let's see, I think we were at 104. The innocent people, the Aztecs, thought him to be Inky, returning as their ancestors had predicted for thousands of years. Some also thought him to be Ch2, the winged serpent, because Cortez fit the appearance of one of the Aztec prophecies of a bearded legendary god king who was received with honor. His soldiers were allowed to roam through the city at their pleasure, and they found a lot of gold and other treasures in the storehouses, right? So I'm just going to be real with you, family. As we read the tablets, I like to add like the subcontext to it. His soldiers were allowed to roam through the city at their pleasure. That means they were robbing and raping and killing, right? So 106, Cortez, born in 1485 through 1547 AD, explored the coast of Mexico, finally stopping near modern Veracruz, where he founded a city in order to legitimize his expedition. That's what a lot of presidents do too, man. Even if they're a bad president, them dudes will get like a library after their name, some type of building, a monument, so you can kind of see where they're getting this from. They conquered and they build something. 107, people were trying to conquer Mexico from the natives of that land. This is why Cortez was there in Mexico. There we go. 108, after gaining important information regarding the political situation in the highlands of Mexico, Cortez marched inland and made an alliance with the Native Americans of the Tlaxcala, we'll just say Tlaxcala, who were the traditional enemies of the Aztecs. So once again, these are the Spaniards coming in, causing proxy wars amongst the indigenous people, right? The Aztecs, as opposed to the Tlaxcalas, we'll just say that for now. And he began to pose as Ch2. So he came in indoctrinating the people, posed as Inky, right? 109, the natives believed that this legendary ruler and deity would eventually return to Mexico from the east. Thus, Montezuma II, the reigning Aztec king, was too mystified to organize resistance, and the Spaniards entered Tiwanaku, the city of Tinoch, named in honor of their ancestors. So this dude was so spooked out about the prophecies that he just let these boys come in there and do whatever they wanted to do. And it kind of applies to us as people, especially as Kushite Nubians today. We get so mystified by things, family. We get so distracted. We get so rolled and odd. I was kind of go on a side carry out of this. I think about the money that we spend as a group of people in this country. We used to be slaves, family. But now we spend maybe 2-3 billion on Jordans. You know what I'm saying? Maybe like 10-20 billion on hair every year. You know, we spend billions of dollars as a collective of people. And we ain't, you know, as grandmama would say, we ain't got shit to show for it. So it's kind of like we done been rolled in the the same way your boy Montezuma II was rolled in the So we're going through some of these diagrams. Mayan god of wind, Quetzalcoatl, that was their rendition. Notice the big nose, right? Notice the big nose. They knocked off the nose. So this is their rendition of Inky. And as we move on down to 171, Hernando Cortez. This is chapter 2. This is El Jarutat, the Holy Tablets. Any questions, any concerns right now, family? We just kind of going in. Where were we, family? Let me go to, I think we were at 111. Thus thinking Cortez was Quetzalcoatl, they turned all the gold over to him. So they were doing this in cycles, family. When somebody showed up and they thought was Inky, when Abu Bakari showed up, he was like, oh man, he got some gold. So when this dude Cortez showed up, oh, that's Inky, he wants some gold. They had plenty of gold. There was no way for them to give away all the gold because it was the gold that Inky had brought to South America. Inky had crafts and everything. So their gold down there is deep. So when they met this guy Cortez, they started giving this dude the gold at that cycle in time, right? So they were showing him his crew the massive amounts of gold stored in the underground caverns upon underground caverns, right? In what is called Ecuador today, right? 112, Cortez was easily thought to be Inky because he was 6 feet tall. And he had a beard like the description they had of Inky, when in fact he was not Inky. He was a Spaniard of European descent, part of a larger plan to deceive the Native Americans out of their gold. Inky's restriction from returning to Earth, he did not like, but was forced to comply. So he took you back to Inky. He told you that story. Then he goes back to Inky like Inky had to leave the gold. That's why he didn't take it. So the gold was left there after all that time. Abu Bakari shows up, he gets some of the gold. Cortez shows up, he gets some of the gold. 113, since all did not go well with Inky, the transportation of the gold had to be slowed up. Thus, my child, more Annunaki was sent, right? They came down in groups of 50s. One of the groups was led by Murdoch, or Murdoch, meaning leader of the deities. He was a son of Inky and Damkina, or Damgina, or Damkina, blood of the 50 earth, quote unquote. She was a faithful wife. That was the wife of Inky. 117. The plan that Inky had, which was to extract gold from the sea waters by laboratory-like processes, did not work as well as was expected. However, the gold was still badly needed, and the Annunaki faced a tough decision. To abandon the project was out of the question. So they had to find a new way of getting the gold, which was through mining. Now pause right there, family. Keep in mind that the Annunaki numbers was low when they came here because a lot of them were refugees, and they went to different star systems to set up new homes. A lot of the people that were on risk left risk. Some of them died during that attack, right, physically. So they were scattered. They were scattered people. You think if the earth get damaged, get blown up, well, we can't live on it. Not everybody's going to be making it off the earth. So they were a scattered race of people. So when they came down, they didn't have a lot of hands. They had to send as many people they can down to earth. Like, we need more help. We need more help. So it was becoming imperative that they do something about it. So just trying to get you to see the mindset, right? So 119. By then, the Annunaki knew that there was a lot of gold in the Abzu, the primeval source, or Zuab. So Abzu was also called Monadapa, located in what is now Zimbabwe, formerly called Rhodesia, near South Africa, which was then called Rafali. So he gave you all these names: Monadapa, near Zimbabwe, Rhodesia, right? Rafali. 121. However, the African gold had to be extracted from the depths of the earth through mining, right? And the Annunaki had to go from the easy water treatment process to a hard toil process, which is to extract the gold from below the surface of the earth, then called it Abaddon, right? So it was a flip on the scene. Because you got to understand, when the Anunnaki was coming here, these people had high society. They had advanced technology. They weren't used to getting in the dirt and digging with shovels You know, they were way beyond that. They had stuff that did that for them. So they wasn't really accustomed to doing that physical labor, but they was giving it a try, right? So he's letting you know it's a build-up of something like that. All right? And it looks like 123. By the time Enlil, meaning the ruler of the skies, or Nunamnir, meaning the light of the fish, which was his other name, son of Anu and Antum. This was Inky's brother, right? So you mentioned earlier who was Inky's brother. This guy here, this Enlil, right? He was the ruler of the sky. So Inky was given charge of going to Earth and running the Earth project. Enlil was given the charge of running the crafts that were in the solar system. He was running the skies. Inky was running the Earth, so to speak, right? So that was his half brother. Right, his other name, that was the other son of Anu and Antum. He was sent down to take charge of the mission and organize the gold deliveries to the Bureau. So Paul's right there. When he came down and messed up and went sending the gold back, and he got in trouble, and Dad was like, "Yo, man, go down there and get Inky. Bring him on back up here. He ain't gonna do right." And Lil, you go on down and get the gold. Okay, Dad. So Lil come down and get the gold and start restructuring things. You can already understand the Enlil was on double time. He's like, okay, my brother done effed up the whole situation. Let me come down here and clean house and get this gold. I'm not coming down here to be compassionate. We got to get this gold. So he was coming down here like a new boss on the scene at the job. You feel me? He was coming down here with that attitude, so to speak. 124, this caused a rivalry and jealousy between the two brothers. Inky, God of the earth, and Enlil, God of the heavens, who were sons of Anu, the Most High God. Right? So you see that context in 124. This is a brewing up. This is that jealousy that's brewing up again. 125, the male species of the dragon people didn't want to cooperate with brother Enlil. You know why? They didn't like Enlil, number one. Number two, Enlil wasn't no kin to them. Inky was the daughter of their princess. So Inky was royalty to these reptilians or these draconians down here living in the seas, living in the caverns. He was kinfolk, right? So they considered Inky family. So that's why Inky was able to come down here and set up those projects and move how he moved. So when Leo got down here with this new attitude, they was like, nah, bro, we ain't feeling you. So 126, they naturally preferred Inky as he was one of them, being the son of a Draco or being from the Draco star constellation. His mother Id was a Draconian, right? 127. There are many strands and different breeds of Dracos. One commonly known as Vulcans that were living in the seas, also known as the Meldekians, living in the Bermuda Triangle and in Mu and Atlantis, not to be mistaken with another type of Meldekians called the Primitives, right? So there are two different types. He's letting you know. But there's a primitive type and there's a more humanoid looking type. 128, the Vulcans that lived in the sea, don't scroll down.
Cool. I just want to say one thing, bro, because you said the Dracos, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you also got the Dracos on the Soldier Boy, right? He called himself Draco.
Young
dude, bro. He's the first one I heard say that. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, man. He did. I think his middle name is Drake, and then the gun is called Draco. So he's kind of playing off that ignorantly, but not really knowing he promote that. But it's like, oh man, come on, Soldier Boy. But I like Soldier Boy.
It's still the savagery of the reptilian nature.
Yeah. There it is. It's right there. They love promoting that. Okay, so that's Antum. That's the wife of Anu. That was, also his half sister, right? Because she was royalty. Royalty married within itself at certain points in the past, right? So we're from the Mizrax constellation, which is also referred to as Zeta Reticuli, right? So it's talking about those groups of Meldekians, that primitive group. 129, they originated from the planet Meldek. However, when their planet was destroyed, now keep in mind, Paul's family, we talked about Meldek being destroyed in chapter 1 when the Bureau came through about 24 billion years ago and accidentally bumped into their planet, knocked it into space and pretty much destroyed it, right? So a lot of the Meldekians had relocated to Earth because their planet was destroyed. So they was down here. So you can imagine if the Annunaki came back after they destroyed your home world, and now you live on your second world, you're not going to be too reluctant to mess with them or even trust them. right? So I'm seeing a double narrative. We was always taught in religion that the devil was in the seas, but you start looking at this from a perspective like people come into your home and they destroy it, then you move into a new house. Then them same people come into your house, hey, can I borrow a cup of sugar? You're not gonna be too reluctant to give them that sugar. This was the attitude of the reptilians. 132, I think, the primitives from the Bermuda Triangle, sometimes called Atlantis, refused to cooperate and surrender to their ancestors, right? So these primitive Meldekians, right, didn't want to work with the other Meldekians who were more humanoid. Even though the humanoid Meldekians like, okay, he married one of our daughters, we'll let him mine the gold. The primitive, aka the niggas of them, said, we not messing with these Annunaki. They destroyed our planet. Why would y'all let them do? So it's always two sides to it. Now keep in mind in the movie Aquaman, when he goes down into these trenches, they call this certain species of Atlanteans primitives, right? And they were primitive, right? So it makes reference to that species in that movie. I just want y'all to recognize that. 133, the ones who came in were hoping that the primitives from the Bermuda Triangle would accept the old ways from when they lived on the planet Meldeck and follow their old leadership. However, they were wrong. So there has been a battle going on the planet Earth beneath it and the interdimensionally between the two groups of reptilians and greys, right? One group is set on evacuating the planet Earth and taking control over it by imprisoning human beings and using them as food, which are the primitives. The other group is interested in the divine in humans by breeding the genes into human beings. This is the group that Id, mother of Inky, came from. So you had one group that wanted to breed with us because they saw this higher potentials in us, right? And then you had the other group was like, nope, they food. They food all day. So it's two opposing groups in the Meldekians. Inky's mom was from that more humanoid group of those reptilians, is what it's breaking down. 137, the word Zeta is the sixth letter in the Greek alphabet. The early letter Zeta was originally an I. The Greek alphabet came from the Phoenicians. 139, the letter Z is the replica of the cobra, snake, which resembles the symbol of the Zeta Reticulans. So that's no coincidence that some of the foundations of these languages and these letters, that Greek, right, and how that Z was an I, and when you write that Z out, it looks like a cobra. That's talking about the snake people, the serpent people. So even the ancient Greeks was relating it to those beings based on their language. 140, the letter Zayn, Z, is the seventh letter in the Hebrew alphabet, and it means weapon. Now keep in mind, we talked about this in, I think the Let's Set the Record Straight class a few days ago, how they replaced letters, right? This Z, this Zayn in Hebrew used to be the sixth letter. Now they replaced it with the Y, which is the sixth letter. So when you type it in at www.this.com, that www is a Hebrew mathematic equation for 666, taking you into the beast. The master teacher broke this down in many scrolls years ago about this web, and the internet was one of those webs, and how the devil, lures us in, gets us caught in all these dramatics and everything else. All right, so let's see, 142. The letter Z is the 11th letter of the Arabic, Ashuric Syriac Arabic alphabet. 143. As a numerical, Zayn denotes 7. Another type of draconian species is called gargoyles. They have special wings, which are flaps of skin supported by long ribs of dracona. They can be folded back against the body. It is obvious that the qualities have been ascribed to vampires, right? So Paul's right here. He talked about these different species of Meldekians and these reptilians and how one of them is called gargoyles, right? Now in history in America, they teach us about vampires. These vampires are the humanoid versions of these reptilians. Same thing that we just read. Same thing with Inky's mom and then the other opposing primitives. It's a mean mix between the primitive and these humanoid reptilians. This is where they get the folklore of these vampires from. And notice the word V, empire, Vulcan empire, vampire. Dr. York broke this down too in that Halloween scroll.